Right, I'm back. We're starting with Ed's game, right? The first game. Yeah.
Alright, the video doesn't want to go. Okay, so I'll have to go ahead and fix that. So hello everyone, this is 5-Star General. And today we got a special guest in.
Yeah, me, Caeltos, hello.
So he's going to be going ahead and helping me out today. Because as you guys can probably hear, I need the bloody help.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm here to help you out.
So I didn't get a chance to talk to Lockhart today about why he's not here. Is it just finals again, or?
I am not sure. I think it's a bit personal. I think.
Okay.
So yeah, not gonna dwell on that matter.
Yeah, I don't know. It may have been. I wasn't sure because I know he wasn't here yesterday because of finals, and then I thought he was gonna be here today, but you know, it may have been something just came up. But I didn't wake up until kind of late today, so. But anyways, so let's kind of start getting us started here. In that we're gonna go ahead and cover like the second part of NemOK today. You guys may have seen these games actually casted during the GameReplays Open Season Tournament, but we wanted to go kind of back through them, especially after seeing the games that we saw yesterday, because sorry, but anyway, especially after seeing the games from yesterday, we can kind of see how NemOK changed some of his evolved basically some of his build orders and strategies. Like, we just saw a huge evolution from the first game that he played against Noave to the second game that he played against Noave. And we're actually going to see it. There's a game against Lindonin where he gets to play against Techmarine once again. You can see, again, it's a lot tighter in that game even. And we also get to see quite a bit versus Eldar play. And I can tell you firsthand, a friend of mine wanted me to play some TV2s last night. So I'm like, I'll play some Lord General and I'll play some like NemOK style and in 2v2. And I was playing with a bunch of friends, and just two of my friends on the other team just absolutely were like, he was a warlock, you know, the ones on my side in Calderas Refinery, and I basically just ended up being able to push in tier 1 without issue right up to his base, like, you know, just the outside of his base, because he just really couldn't find like anything to deal with the timing push that just hit him really, really brutally hard. And I was complaining actually pretty loudly that I was base locking, but I'm like, I have to do something to keep you there, otherwise you keep going over to the left side and attacking my poor ally. So, you know, I'm like, I could be hitting your generators right now, but, you know, luckily there are no generators on the right side, so I could go to the left side and do that, though, if you want me to. I think that'd be a little worse, because then you don't have power and you can't attack, but anyway, you know, it was very effective even in 2v2, and, you know, saw that out through a couple of games. And then, of course, you know, 3x Sentinel versus Nids in 2v2 is still lolzy. But anyway, so we'll go ahead and get right into the first game here against Edtjuh. So this is on Ashes of Typhon. Quite a few games, actually, that NemOK ended up playing in Ashes of Typhon, because it was one of the maps that was in the starting pool for the tournament. And he actually performed really well in all of them. Despite saying in the winner's interview, which I just posted like literally a few minutes before going live here, despite saying in the winner's interview that he really hates the map, he does a really bloody good job on it, and we're going to see some really great play on it here, and he really leverages that open area on the right to kind of hold defensively in a really nice way against Edtjuh. And so let's go ahead and boot that up to 5 seconds and pause there.
Alright. I'm good.
Alright, I'm most of the way there.
Commander here. Go ahead.
Alright, now I'm good. So, we ready to go in 5 seconds?
Yeah, sure. You do the countdown, or yeah?
Yep, sure. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we got NemOK in the top and Edtjuh in the bottom. And Caeltos, I'm going to turn most of the server to you now because my voice is really giving out.
Yeah, sure, no problems. So yeah, guardsmen coming out for Nemok here, and Banshees coming out for Edtjuh. And we have some fairly standard capping orders going on right now. Nothing really out of the ordinary. It seems to be fairly mirrored, except for that Nemok is going for a requisition before getting the power node. But Eldar prefers to get the power first, just because they usually feel the Howling Banshees as their first unit instead of Guardians. Though it varies depending on the matchup.
Yeah, I've kind of found it interesting that Nemok has gone for this middle power as like his secondary capping here. He kind of leaves a lot of the right side a little untouched for a bit, and kind of gets both of his natural and this middle power at the same time, which has led to some interesting stuff in a few of his games.
Yeah, I understand why he's doing it. Yes, because if you can control the middle, he will control the map sort of indirectly. So getting the power node in the middle is just really good, because you know what's going on if he decides to go near it. And right now the Banshees are trying to push back the Lord General. Sentinel and Guardsman doing some damage on the Warlock, but the Warlock is now deciding to join up with the Howling Banshees. Howling Banshees now trying to flank the Guardsmen by the look of things, but you know, the Guardsmen are now protected by the Sentinel, and they should be able to win in a, well, obviously a ranged firefight, or let alone if the Banshees decide to crawl up on the Sentinel has a stomp.
Yeah, I like how he's saving that stomp too. Like, he's not getting like trigger happy with it there on that Warlock either. You can see he just saves the stomp because he knows these Banshees are still here, and that Warlock very low on health, he can just continue to kite it, and that's exactly what he does. He's able to force everything off here.
Yeah, Banshees goes for the decap on the middle, but you know, Nemok isn't too bothered by it. He's gonna recap that power node eventually. Now we have double Guardians sorry, going up against Guardsmen and the Sentinel. The Guardians shouldn't be able to win this, since they're not even in cover here. Lord General might be going into melee here to tie them up. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Nemok very good about using that melee of the Lord General.
Yeah, the Lord General's melee is actually pretty decent. He has a special attack that does quite a lot of damage actually, but you know, he isn't a dedicated melee fighter, so he'll obviously lose against the Banshees and the Warlock in a fair fight.
You can stay in those fights a little bit longer than your average commander though, because of the infield reinforce.
Yeah. Nemok went for the decapture on the requisition point for Edtjuh, so that's really, really bad for Edtjuh, knowing that. I'm not sure if that was fully matured, but regardless, it's still, he needs to recapture that and then get it back up to full mature point state, sort of.
Yeah, it's basically his natural requisition node.
Yeah, and here we have a somewhat of a big brawl. I'm not sure if Edtjuh is actually ready to commit into a big firefight against double Sentinels and a Guardsman, along with the Lord General. And on the right hand side we have the Warlock pushing back the Guardsman here.
Yeah, I do want to say something really quickly about these double Sentinels and kind of the upcoming fight here. I really take a look at the relationship between the Shuriken cannon platform and the way these double Sentinels are used by Nemok. Usually Shurikens are very brutal for Sentinels because they do a lot of damage, particularly the closer you get. As you can see, the closer these Sentinels walk in, the more damage they take, but again, they're suppression immune, and what we're seeing is that Nemok is going to micro these Sentinels like just about perfectly so that he's able to just stay at like maximum range and stuff most of the time and leverage the fact that his Sentinels are suppression immune and still doing a lot of damage to these Shurikens, and he's able to just kind of repair these, you know, kind of at the edges. So
oh, the Sentinel might be going down here. No, it'll probably, yeah, it's gonna be safe. But
down to 15 health.
Yeah, he'll have to spend some time repairing that now. But he's well on his way into going tier 2. And that's the advantage of also playing with a lot of Guardsmen and Sentinels instead of going for any heavy weapons teams or Catachans. Because you can have spell known generators and you'll be fine. IG is pretty much known for going to be one of the faster techers in the game, along with orcs, depending on how they plan on playing in the early game. But this Sentinel's being really ballsy here with only 15 health. You know, yeah, just one destructor and bam, it's dead.
Yeah, luckily he just wasted the destructor, so, well, didn't waste it, but used it on the Guardsman, so.
Yeah, and if I am to criticize the shurikens, I can understand why you got them. Oh, Sentinel's going down really low on health here, but we'll walk away just safely. People prefer to somewhat go for Rangers, because Rangers can actually do a lot of burst damage on the Sentinels, and the shurikens, sure, they do a lot of good damage and can lock down infantry, but so can, you know, Rangers to a certain degree. I don't know about the
yeah, I agree that I feel like for the Eldar player, if you're looking for a way to deal with this build, you want to probably be looking at most one shuriken and at least one ranger, if not two ranger.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. One ranger, definitely. You want one ranger just for the sudden pop of 150 damage or so.
Yeah, just for all the times you can see, you know, that these sentinels have fallen really low on health, and just one long-range, high-damage shot would finish them off.
Banshee's down to 2 models there, so that's a bit of, it's a significant loss. But the Chimera is now rolling out, or well, will be rolling out shortly. And looking at the map, it's almost entirely red here on my screen at least, and that's in favor of Edtjuh though, obviously. And now his generators are gonna start popping, but you know, Guardians aren't the super most efficient gen bashers unless they're in quantity, and the shuriken doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so killing the generators is really a slow process, and it's not really hurting Nemak all too much, because he's just sitting back and trying to just seize the moment here as soon as that Chimera hits the field.
Yeah, I really like his position here. He's just absolutely ready to move out. He's like this Chimera hits, and now here it goes, and now he can move in.
Yeah, here we go, the big push from the IG side, and Edtjuh has...
Rifle.
Ah, yeah, the sniper rifle is one of my personal favorite war gears in the game. Granted, that's super extra range on every single unit that's nearby the Lord General. Double stomp coming up from the Sentinels, a bit of a waste, but he was hoping for a bit of a model losses kills there instead of any other utility, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, actually, at that point, with the entire force for Edtjuh retreating, it really doesn't matter that you waste a stomp or anything there, because you're going to regenerate the cooldown in time. And now he's going straight for the generators of his opponent here. So this is a very good strike at the head.
Warlock getting the warp throw here, and is getting somewhat pushed back by the guardsmen. The guardsmen are now fully equipped, or well, they have the sergeant and the Lord Commissar. Yeah, the Commissar, not the Lord Commissar. And the Shuriken now setting up, not gonna do a whole lot. He still needs that counter for the Chimera, because the Chimera is just free to do whatever it pleases. But I think
he's got a bright lance.
Yeah, he's got a bright lance right now, but Nemak doesn't know that though. But I think he's aware that something fishy is going on. He's probably tier 2 by now, and well, he doesn't notice the bright lance just yet, but it should be able to dry away safely.
Yeah.
Sentinel in the middle though, going up against the double guards, and that's being a bit over ambitious. Just needs to turn tail here, and might actually go down. No, 30 health. Guardsmen on the left-hand side getting pushed back by the Banshees, but nothing else is going to come out of that, except for a decapture on the VP side for Edtjuh's favor. Lord General being ballsy here, getting a snipe at one of the Shuriken Cannon squad members, but you know, still intact with 3 members out of 4.
Just seeing again the sniper ability here. The fire on my target being used very effectively to really just stay at the edge ranges of these shurikens and the bright lines and everything. I like this warp throw that extend them right in the middle of the 2x shuriken, because it suppresses them, it traps them there. It's a very high damage kill zone.
Yeah, and the Lord General used a Basilisk Creeping Barrage in the middle to push back those double guardians. I'm not sure if he actually killed anything. It doesn't look like it, but he managed to push them back, and you know, pushing back, that's always a win. Yeah,
that actually be one of the rare instances where he didn't kill anything with one of those. I don't know, actually, I think he may have been one of the people casting actually the round of 8 game against Noabe on Civil Frontier, where he actually called down a creeping barrage while the librarian was retreating, and literally the first shell on the barrage hit the librarian and killed it.
I didn't see that.
It was nice. Yeah, we went absolutely nuts on the daily yesterday when we saw that. We're like, holy crap.
Oh, if you look at the requisition income, Nemec is only plus 171 and isn't fully pop capped just yet. He has 85 out of 100. And as a cap, he hasn't captured that really at the top requisition point for some reason.
He's kind of, I feel, he's got some time right now with the Lord General maybe to go ahead and do something like that. But he has been, Edtjuh has been doing a very good job of, and always does a very good job of, pressing the map control issue to infinity. Which is basically to say that he does not give his opponents very much time to go ahead and you know, capture anything, and meanwhile goes ahead and does a very good job of capturing things himself. He's seen basically, he did a great job of pushing Nemoke back to his generators when Nemoke was teching, and then when Nemoke stopped teching, pushed back, Edtjuh did a great job of defending, and basically defended in such a way that
oh, I felt bad for that center on the left-hand side, totally trapped by the double guard.
These guardsmen are just as bad off. We see them waiting here and waiting because they don't. We see some great micro by Nemoke to actually be using execute here because he doesn't want to go through these guardians from Edtjuh of all people, the Nade Master, but unfortunately just not able to save them. The Chimera couldn't get there in time.
Yeah, it was a nice move by Nemec, but unfortunately it didn't pay off in the long run. But it was still a nice move, I'll have to say that. And actually Nate's Chimera just deals a bit of damage, but nothing else is going to come out of that.
Yeah, you know, I found yesterday that heretics actually do a lot of damage to that thing if you just let them sit there and wail on it. I was really surprised, actually.
Yeah, they're power weapons, all of them, I think, aren't they?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Oh well. Oh well, it's looking really grim right now for Nemec. Only with 4 squads compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, I can't count. Anyway, well, you can't see more than he already has, just because the limitations of the replay viewer.
And now Edtjuh's going tier 3, and this is always kind of one of those things where it can kind of be the thing that makes or breaks your game plan here, because it is a significant investment to go tier 3. Definitely Edtjuh has kind of given up the initiative here to go ahead and lay on more hurt than is already being plopped down on Nemoke here. But at the same time, gives him the chance to plop down significantly more hurt in a little bit. And we're seeing Kernhouse is being used incredibly effectively here, and it's going to be continuing to be used incredibly effectively the whole game. Not to mention
also got to give creds for that stand firm ability. Lets him get into the shuriken and finish it off here.
Oh gosh, this is going to be some more finishing action, by the way.
Oh, it's close. It's really close, but it looks like... Boom! I was wrong. Very nice.
Never doubt Nem's ability with that global. It's insane.
Yeah, that was really nice move. He managed to kill one shuriken. No, did he kill? Yeah, he killed both of the shuriken cannon weapon teams.
Yeah, he got the first one with the Ogrins, and then the second one he got with the Colin, or the global, I mean.
Yeah, very nice play from Nemec. Double Guardians here, trying to put an end to the Lord General's capture in the middle, or well, under a top VP. But he jumps inside the Chimera and then he'll just regroup.
Yeah, we're seeing these limited forces still very effective, and it looks like Nemoke, if you look at his resource tab, is building up a fair amount of resources, probably looking for another Ogrin squad. That's what I would take away from that. Of course, I totally haven't seen and previously casted this game, and therefore would have no clue at all what he's building right now.
Oh, Brightlands close to dying here, but it's actually pushed back by the incoming holding Banshees.
And that is one massive stomp, by the way.
Yeah, hits the Guardians, Banshees, and the Warlock, I believe.
Yep, like 3 squads there, basically. And again, these Banshees I kind of do have to question in the long run, by the way, if you're Edtjuh and you're looking for a way to combat this force composition of Nems, whether you would want to include Banshees again or not. I mean, it seems like you may almost be better off with 3x Guardian than having any Banshees at all in there. The way that these Banshees have continually been forced off by the Sentinels.
Yeah, the Banshees have all... the IG army composition in the long run usually has very easy ways of actually dealing with Howling Banshees, and the Howling Banshees, you know, they are meant to kill the more durable kinds of guys, and there's not a whole lot of them in the IG army. D-Cannon out for Edtjuh also hits the Lord General right on the spot, kills the guy, I believe, but that's about it.
Yeah, I get about 1 retinue member. And that's him at the sea cannon is that, of course, he is Warlock. He's got Warp Throw. And there's always some Singularity shenanigans to go along with that. But we do have 2 Ogryn squads out now for Nemoke. And we're going to see some interesting usage of those 2 Ogryns. We already see one is on the left side, and the other one is moving towards the right side. He's not really making an effort to kind of keep these grouped up, which is what I see a lot of players when they get 2 big, powerful units like that will just instantly feel like they have to group them as much as possible and just keep pushing and concentrating their power. Nemoke realizes that for the most part that's overkill here, but we do see here on the right side very good usage again of Turnhouse by Edtjuh. That purchase is going to be one of the best ones he's made the whole game, honestly.
Yeah, and one of the Guardian squads actually went down on the left-hand side from one of the Ogryn squads. So, again, putting Edtjuh at a more disadvantage here.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at that squad count that you were mentioning earlier, where it was just about all in Edtjuh's favor, it's now just about even, or a little bit in favor of Nemoke. Certainly when you look at population here, 80 versus 47.
Yeah, he also used, I forgot what it's called, on the Banshees that reduces the incoming range damage. I'm not sure why.
Distort field?
Yeah, I'm not sure why he used it.
Well, I think it could have something to do with that Ogryns are pretty good. Their range damage isn't insignificant, I guess I want to say, so at least it would reduce some of the incoming damage on approach, maybe. It's a nice warp throw there to go ahead and save this Bright Lance from the Ogryns, but the Lord General is going to be able to finish it off. If
and
the creeping
Bastard
barrage doesn't itself, oh man, that thing is just...
Wow, Edtjuh is in a really, really bad spot here, and the Warlock actually decides to pop the Providence ability. Now he's just gonna go crazy batshit here and use Ethereal Slash constantly here and do some terrible damage. Though the Chimera is nearby, he could just pop inside that Chimera and just kite him around until it wears off. And that's exactly what it's gonna do. Oh, Sentinel actually takes a lot of damage from that Ethereal Slash, but the Providence effects actually wears off right now.
Yeah, and actually what was interesting there, you saw there's a little bit of a stun around him as it wore off. He didn't take the stun effect while he was under Providence, but the second he got out of Providence, the timer on the stun was still up and he was still being affected by it. So just kind of, again, a little interesting thing there to be aware of. If you take a stomp while he's in Providence, and it wears off, beware that you may be stunned when it wears off.
Yeah.
A victory point is slipping away.
And we have a Falcon coming out from Edtjuh. It seems like a bit of a questionable upgrade, if you ask me. It feels like a Fire Prism if you can just wait and get it. It seems like more a reasonable purchase.
Yeah, he's a little low on power right now. Although, yeah, if you add back the power that the Falcon costs, he may not be that low. But I'm not really sure. I mean, it could be looking for... I don't know. You may feel that the Fire Prism's a little not quite durable enough to deal with the Ogryns, and he wants the Falcon to have the shield up. And well, I don't know. You know, there's a whole topic on that in the forum. So about how ridiculous
it's one
the
of
shield
those.
is. Am I right?
Yeah. But wow, these benches are really not paying off at all. They're being more of a liability than a good a good investment at all. He's just losing so many Banshee models, and it's really putting him back in the economy war.
It's almost like you may as well just let them die at this point. It would have been better off.
Yeah, sort of. And here we have a heavy weapon squad coming out from Nemoke, and it's gonna put him at 92 out of 100. And it'll be interesting to see what he gets. I don't think he needs a last cannon. I don't think he does. I mean, yeah, I was about to say that missile launcher on the Sentinel is going to be sufficient enough, I believe.
But actually, Nemoke has got a little bit different of a tool for that heavy weapon squad up his sleeves here.
Oh. And again, we have the Banshees going inside the Ogryns, well, engaging the Ogryns. But I mean, the Banshees are just being torn apart. Loses the Exarch, I believe. And we have the Ethereal Slash going on the Ogreens, but deals a bit of a damage, but no model losses. Well, one, maybe two, maybe.
Take a lot of model losses now.
Yeah, they might actually
really
go down.
Careful about getting them out of here. He will
Perfect
just
stomp.
Exactly. Yeah, the stomp is just what absolutely saved him there. And it's that kind of micro that really makes this build work for them.
Yeah, and wow, looking at the IG army composition and the levels of it, we have like everything is level 3. Guardsman level 3, Sentinel level 3, Chimera level 3, and the Ogreens 2.5 sort of, and the level 1 and the level 1. And no idea about the Lord General because it's inside the Chimera.
So
and
well, we have the autocannon coming out on the heavy weapon squad.
Yeah, I like that, especially if you can go with the synergy of the Lord General.
Yeah,
And
right,
that Falcon is dead. Oh, the autocannons are so powerful against the AV now. Or they're a really strong AV, and they're a real strong anti-infantry.
Yeah, he's just going to do a great job of using this whole game. You see, actually, if you click on it right now to see the range that thing has, and we were actually talking about this in the winner's interview, and he was basically saying that, yeah, the range is amazing, but he was having issues using it without having a spotter, and so he's actually thinking about integrating stormtroopers into his composition so that he can go ahead and have some infiltrated stormtroopers kind of recon ahead and go ahead and give him line of sight so he can actually use the range on that.
That's something I personally like when I'm playing Lord General, is just get stormtroopers along with the autocannons, because with the hotshot guns or whatever they're called for the stormtroopers, they get such an insane amount of range. On the left hand side, Ogreens, they will.
Trapped,
Yeah, they will be safe though.
Yeah, they'll get out.
But losing models with Ogreens kind of suck always. We lost 2 models, I believe. Or well, 1, because he forgot to reinforce one of them in the base.
And meanwhile, though, he's pushing the right side, so he's doing the absolute correct response here as far as dealing with all of this, which is just stepping up on the right side here to go ahead and capitalize on the fact that there's so much effort being put into the left side by Edtjuh. Meanwhile, though, Warlock popping Providence again.
Yeah, it does a warp throw, doesn't hit, or it's a hit and miss. Warlock might be going for the autocannons now, or guardsmen by the look of things. You need to get back into. Yeah.
I think he was trying to go do a capture with Providence still on, but it wore off a little early.
Warlock is dropping terribly low here on health.
Oh, this auto call, just look at the positioning of these grenades, it's just beautiful. I mean, it just absolutely disrupts everything. Even if it's not going to kill everything, it's going to go ahead and disrupt everything so she can get in and do a little bit of disruption, maybe allow someone else to come in. Unfortunately, no real follow-up other than the auto itself here.
Yeah, the auto seems really questionable, though. I mean, he has double Ogreens and the Chimera. It feels like it wasn't a necessary purchase, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. He may be looking to get at the Lord General and the autocannon a little bit better, particularly since he can't really knock the autocannon down.
Yeah.
Like Rangers or anything wouldn't be too effective against it.
We're standing by here.
Yeah. Probably. And he probably wants to get a bit more beefy in melee, and also give the Banshees a bit of a helping hand.
Yeah,
but
that really would help, because I mean the Ogreens a lot of times have been stuck in melee with these Banshees and haven't really done too amazingly.
But it feels it's way too late for fielding that auto. It should have hit the field way earlier.
Yeah.
Wow, that auto gets taking a lot of damage from that autocannon and the guardsman.
And it feels like if he had, again, like the Stormtrooper spotter, she may even have been dead there with the kind of range that all these units had.
Yeah, if he only has a spotter now, he can actually fire back on those D-cannons and Bright Lance along with those Howling Banshees. And dealing that amount of AoE damage on the Banshees really puts him back. He has to be careful when actually how to approach the IG army here. In fact, he probably shouldn't engage at all, but he's actually forced to play on Nem's terms here.
Here comes a singularity that won't do too much. Looks a little bit of bleed. It does open the way for the Banshees, which I do like. But the Ogreens are going to be here, and they're going to be sufficient to go ahead and back this up.
Yeah, knockback and the damage. I'm not sure what that Ogreen Noble Leader ability is called, but regardless,
Yeah,
puts Banshee pushed back. Autarch jumps in, tries to actually finish off the Ogrins.
And here comes the creeping barrage. And this is actually one of the less effective ones, but still actually knocks all those platforms back while the Autarch is causing some problems. And this is kind of my issue here with Ed's play at the moment, is that those the Singularity was just kind of sent out randomly, and then the Banshees were sent in to try and make, capitalize on it. And then the Autarch came in way after. I felt like, should have just waited a few more seconds there and then got the Autarch in. But now the Autarch is just sent to die, basically, for no particular reason here.
Yeah, it was probably focusing his attention elsewhere. Wow, those guardsmen are with the plasma guns are dealing so much damage against that Autarch, and wow, that everything the IG has is dealing a lot of damage. Shuriken really low on health, has no spotter for the autocannons though. So again, implementing some sort of spotter for the autocannons might seem like the finishing touch to this build for an Nemok. But it seems like a really solid build overall. It's just that it has one little side effect. It's the lack of a spotter. Singularity in the middle? No, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, just taking a couple models again, but nothing that the Chimera can't reinforce rather cheaply for Nemok here. But I guess it's maybe doing just enough for Edtjuh to make sure that Nemok doesn't get to a Baneblade.
Yeah, though he only has 5 more pop caps, so he can just build a bunker, and that's about it. That's a bit of the draw, the negative side effects of going in for a very heavy tier 2 investment for IG. But it's really paying off, and it's really effective against even an Eldar tier 1, tier 2 army composition here.
Yeah.
A bit of a blind spot, random attack round from the D cannons. Banshee's taking a lot of damage from the Ogrins, will be pushed back, uses the distortion field, I believe that's called, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Or distort field, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about a song, it's called Distortion Sleep.
Here we go, creeping mirage again.
Whee, the Banshees fly away.
Absolutely brutal.
Oh, didn't finish off the shurikens, but wow, he's inflicting so much damage with the creeping basilisk barrage.
Yeah, it just almost doesn't even matter at that point. And watch the Warlock in this battle, by the way, because he ends up getting incredibly annoying. So, number one, there's a Singularity, although I'm not quite sure why the Singularity is tossed that way. And but the Singularity ends up getting called off because that D-cannon retreated. But then we just see the Warlock just gets in here and just absolutely starts disrupting everything he possibly can with Kurnaus, or Ethereal Slash, as she said. And look at that autocannon. Oh.
Yeah.
But this is the other thing that Nemok does really well. That autocannon, even the autocannon has a health kit there, so it's just able to soak up this damage for quite a while, and then the Warlock is eventually forced off.
People would probably immediately just retreat with their units there if it's engaged with the Warlock with a Ethereal Slash weapon. And it's looking really bad for Edtjuh, and he calls the GG by the look of things.
Yep.
Ever onward.
So well played from Nemok, really demonstrating how IG is like performed against IG here, against a certain
Eldar, yeah.
Tier, really top Eldar player as well.
Yeah, I really liked, particularly by the end there, how he was really doing a good job of splitting his forces between the left and the right side, and really being able to lock down the right side, make sure he had that victory point down pat, and then ensuring that he would be able to hold the left side as kind of quote natural victory point.
Yep.
So second game against Ed, Edtjuh did what he's known probably best for doing, and went ahead and tried to counterpick Nem by going ahead with the play champion for Chaos, which, when you think about it on paper, is an incredibly brutal matchup because of well, Obnoxious Cloud, number one.
Yeah.
Blight grenades, just so many things that he can go ahead and toss at a guardsman heavy army. And we're going to see Nemok comes back at this with 3x guardsmen of all things. and obviously it makes it work. So we're gonna see how in the world he did that. And by the way, his comment when I asked him about this was that at least the Play Champion doesn't have Artificer's armor. So he actually felt that the Play Champion was a little bit easier to play this build against than the Tech Marine. But this actually goes back to the build that we showed you guys yesterday when he was playing against Noave, that he basically kind of made up on the spot for that game. He was saying, and you know, he figured for this game that, well, if it works against Tech Marine, it should work against Play Champion, which is interesting logic in my opinion. But I can't say he was incorrect. So let's go ahead and load that one up on Judgment of Carrion.
Let's hope the Play Champion gets some Muckus, because Muckus it's not equivalent to the Artificer, but it gives the Plague Champion a lot of direct, more battlefield presence, just because he can load the ranged incoming damage, and most that IG has is obviously ranged firepower, and the heal is really beneficial for him, along with the Chaos Space Marines and etc.
Yeah, it is. Trying to think how expensive it is, but yeah, it is a very nice war gear on that front. Although it does force you to give up light grenades against a blobby army.
Well, I don't think necessarily you should. If you're asking me as a Chaos player,
yeah,
light grenades, it's a hit or miss. The Plague Champion needs to get into the thick of things mostly, and you know, he can easily be kited. And you'd prefer almost to get an icon of Nurgle instead. You don't have to bother about throwing or standing still. You
that's a really good point. Yeah, my roommate's been doing icon of Nurgle a lot lately, and that thing is absolutely brutal since they buffed it.
Yeah, it's really powerful, way more easier to use. And it pays off more than the light grenades. Sure, the light grenades can chain and all that kinds of crap, but you just have to stand still. You can get knocked back during it. There's a lot of drawbacks to the whole throwing it and all that kinds of jiffy.
Yeah. Alright, so we ready to get started, loaded up at 5?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Alrighty, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So in the bottom right here we have Edtjuh, and the top left we've got Nemoke. Nemoke sticking with that Lord General, Edtjuh going to have that Plague Champion that we mentioned. As we see a fairly standard cap in order for both going for Requisition to start out with.
Yeah. Not only did you mention that he is counter-picking race, he's also counter-picking map. Even though I'm not entirely sure how IG actually fares on this map, because I've never played an IG on this map. But you know, Chaos Space Marines with the short distances here, and you can use the worship to a good effect on almost every single point on the map. It gives Chaos a really good advantage, let alone the double requisition points that are easily defended.
Yeah. Yeah, he does seem to be doing a good job of that. Nemoke basically was not using any vetoes the whole tournament. His attitude was that he could play and beat his opponents on any map. And I think he's trying to bear that out right here.
Yeah, that's really boss. Sentinel Stomp going on the Chaos Space Marines, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and it doesn't really stun their ranged firepower effect as well.
It does disrupt them at least a little bit, so they have a little bit tougher time focus firing with the Play Champion. We are seeing he's focusing on focusing down this Play Champion, and he is able to force him off pretty decently well. And this kind of goes back to what he was saying about the Play Champion not having Artificers.
And we have a second Chaos Space Marine squad coming out. Going for a double Chaos Space Marine squad also has a bit of a side effect that you're trading off for more firepower than battlefield presence. Because one of the mistakes I think he's doing right now is not having his actually worshipping going on in the middle section here. Because he needs, you know, the synergy between the Chaos Space Marines and the Heretics in a PC being the Plague Champion against IG. Is the fact that IG doesn't have a whole lot of firepower actually. So you can benefit from the healing aura.
Yeah, we do see that third Guardsman squad coming out from Nemoke. So just kind of as mentioned here, we've got 3 Guardsman squads. Already, 2 of them have Sergeants. So very heavy commitment to lobby Guardsman squads here. So we'll see, they actually do have a decent amount of firepower when they're able to go ahead and blob up together. But Edtjuh is doing something very interesting here, actually using the heavy bolter turret from the Play Champion And this is going to be a big issue for MLK because there is no great way, particularly for his particular force composition, to go ahead and deal that. He's trying to bring these guardsmen on the left side here who were capturing power and whatnot to try and come over and flank this, but these Chaos Space Marines are able to force them off pretty well. And everything in front of the turret is just forced back. And this just completely locks down that middle area for Edtjuh.
We also have a bit of a blunder on Edtjuh's side. His heretics were standing near the power node for a really good time there. You could have probably decapped that requisition by now at Nemok's side, and those small mistakes can actually be so devastating. They could have also just flanked in the middle way earlier and pushed them back, and it's a whole spiral of things that could have totally changed maybe the outcome of this fight.
Yeah, and you're seeing it's actually making him here really do a little fine maneuver on the left side here to get these heretics out, and he's losing 3 of them, and he actually ends up having to research Aspiring Champion to make sure they get out all right, so that while they're retreating, that thing will pop up, and hopefully, if they're taking a little too much damage, it'll come up just in the right nick of time and give that little health boost. But again, that may be resources he didn't want or need to spend. A 25 power that may well be useless to him otherwise.
Yeah. And also, I'm not the biggest fan of the heavy bolter turret because he's exposed to the flanks. He could have placed that way more back and actually avoided being in that situation that it can actually be flanked and still keep that middle section of the map. Let alone that heavy bolter turrets, they're really expensive if you look by Chaos standards, because Chaos really needs to constantly reinforce the heretics, and Chaos Space Marines aren't as durable as your precious normal tactical Space Marines, and they cost a lot to reinforce as well, and require a lot of investments to make good use of.
I do disagree a little bit on the turret placement. I actually feel it's pretty fine, because even though, again, it looks like it can be flanked, the reality is that when facing guardsmen here, very tough for them to flank it because they don't damage it very well at all, and it's right outside his base entrance, honestly, and he's able to basically get whatever he needs to over there. Very quick to go ahead and provide fire support. We saw that even when it was initially being constructed, he had no issue getting the 2x Chaos Space Marines there and defending it really well. So having it maybe a little more aggressively placed and leveraging his army to go ahead and make sure it's able to stay there, I think is probably the right decision.
I'm just saying that if you look on the, we have actually a lot of battles going on, so I'm gonna get back to that point.
Yeah. No, I see exactly what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like to get out on the right side, he's gonna have to go through, and we see even this may be what Nemok is trying to do. He may not even be going for the power generators here on the right side. He may well be trying to get past his Chaos Space Marine so he can get at this heavy bolter turret on the flank. He's got to get through like either this right side or this left side, and that's something that we're seeing he's not going to be able to do in Tier 1.
Power node is taking hits.
Yeah, and also already at this stage, he's actually lost a fair amount of Chaos Space Marine models, and those losses are unacceptable, really, going with an Aspiring Champion grenade launchers and the Havoc this early on, because if you look also that Nemok is playing IG, obviously, stating that, and he has no power, power unit investment again in Tier 1, and goes for that fast tech into Tier 2. And he's gonna get another fast, good Tier 2 units to make a big difference. Probably a Chimera, because Chimeras are really awesome.
Yeah, and of course, with these 3x guardsmen, why would you not grab one?
Yeah, they really would benefit from it. And again, he has no real counters against that Chimera that will eventually hit the field. There we go, in production. Yeah, it's gonna be a really uphill battle for Edtjuh. But it feels like also Edtjuh should be using the warship a lot more, because the Chaos Space Marines themselves can just deal with the guardsmen, and the Sentinel with the healing warship effect. And he wouldn't put himself in a bad spot from the missile launches as well, because of the bunched up AI on the Heretics end.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree that if you were focusing a little more on warship, the second this missile launcher comes out, the warship formation, they're going to take much less damage from the missile launcher sentinel. And again, the CSM is still going to do quite well under warship. We see already they're very durable, even against 2, even 3 squads here. And it's really taking quite an effort for NemOK to force them off. And this is without warship, so here goes Chimera
double,
yeah,
double plasma for the guardsman as well. Hope to see the third one, and yeah, that heavy bolter is probably gonna end up dying. We have the Mark of Siege coming up, Havocs. I don't like that at all, personally, preference, because the autocannons themselves would really tear apart the guardsman, and actually deal with the sentinel and the chimera. I personally prefer going with a sort of a generalist type of thing instead of a specialist thing, because once that Havoc has done its job, it's going to be useless for the rest of the game, sort of. But let's see what Edtjuh makes out of this. Turret goes down, creeping Basilisk with barrage on the Chaos Space Marines. Seems a bit late though, but it's he needs to micro those out of the base.
I think he actually wanted to actually go and hit these heretics here, but just was not able to for some reason. But meanwhile, we see that Siege squad just died dead in that garrison as they try to come out.
Yeah, when you're dealing with a triple guardsman and a chimera, it doesn't matter if you go for a like really hard AV like in a siege, because the triple guardsman can just out repair the damage anyway. So it's just a meh thing, to be honest, if you ask me. And the Plague Marines are also really tough. Sure, they're durable, but Guardsman with triple plasma guns and the chimera, he has a lot of piercing and piercing damage and power weapons to actually kill the Plague Marines.
Remember that Plague Marines are just regular infantry.
Yeah, exactly. That means
the plasma is actually doing less damage to them.
Yeah, but you know, the amounts of guardsmen and the chimera and everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it's still significant. We do see sniper rifle going down.
Yeah, sniper rifle with triple guardsmen. Oh, it's gonna be so hard for Edtjuh to deal with this. I'd like to see Mark of Khorne on the Chaos Space Marines, because he has no dedicated melee fighters, and that means the Chaos Space Marines can just run in and just tear stuff apart, and it allows Edtjuh to be aggressive. But he goes. Yeah, I think one is fine, but as long as he doesn't get 2 of them, because one Mark of Siege is enough to deal with the Sentinel. No, he goes for 2. Darn. But yeah, look at the Plague Marines. I mean, they're still dropping really, really fast, and losing 1 model of Plague Marines is really a big deal.
Now we've got a chance.
Dual Siege Marines are going to tear through the Sentinel immediately though. So we'll give him that advantage, but here goes Noxious Cloud, or Obnoxious Cloud, depending on how you prefer to look at it. Guardsman squad barely gets in the Chimera there.
Ooh, that was really close.
And really nice thing this Obnoxious Cloud does for Edtjuh here is that it prevents these guardsmen from repairing the Chimera. They've got to actually be inside the Chimera. If they're inside the Chimera, they're not outside repairing it, which means these Plague Marines can actually go ahead and chase a little bit.
But the funny story of that fight is actually that NemOK won. Because the Plague Marines lost 1 model, the Chaos Space Marine, one of the Chaos Space Marine squad lost 1 model, and then we have another 2 models lost for Chaos Space Marines on the second Chaos Space Marine squad. I'm not sure if any aspiring champions died or heretics died in the process, but still, way too many model losses for that confrontation. So NemOK won that. Let alone he's feeding the guardsmen extra levels, and levels on the guardsmen is nasty.
We are seeing that he is kind of forcing NemOK to concentrate in the middle here, while his play champion is able to go off to the left side and capture, and his victory point lead here is pretty solid for Edtjuh.
Yeah, it certainly is. But causing attrition also on guardsmen isn't that big of a deal, since they're so cheap, and with the commissar and everything. Autocannon again on the heavy weapons squad, really good purchase there in my opinion, because they deal a lot of damage to the Chaos Space Marine squads and the heretics, and it's gonna force the heretics to constantly worship in order to be efficient, and taking out the heretics from a fight by not doing any grenade launcher ordeal is really good, you know.
Yeah, meanwhile we do have the Biosphere coming out of this play champion trying to get a big gem bash off. And I think that's going to be really bad for him in the long run is the issue. Unless he can completely get a gem for him, even if he does, I don't even know. Because the issue happened is that there's a Lord General with a sniper rifle out. You got tons of guardsmen. It's just like orcs with big shooters, you know, getting that against them. Or even a very heavy mid-range blob. It seems like a good idea because it does AoE damage and it's a flamer and everything, but it just gets outranged so badly. I mean, see, he dies on retreat here as well. He got the node, that was it. That was not worth it. Won't be worth it the rest of the game.
He also lost another additional 2 Chaos Space Marines models in the middle and a Plague Marine squad, actually 2 of them. He's losing this fight right in the game, so to speak, purely based on the economy and not through VPs or anything like that, because you really can't afford those Chaos Space Marine losses. Another model dies against for the Chaos Space Marine squads, and a lot of heretics are dying. I'm not sure if actually an aspiring champion went down. He obviously went down a bit earlier, but again,
there's some Noxious Cloud again. But the Chimera's right here. I mean, you've either got to follow this up by by attacking that Chimera with something and really be looking to take it out, or you've got to cast it in an area where there's no Chimera, like on the left side victory point.
Yeah, I know this from my own experience. You cannot do obnoxious cloud on a good IG player. There's no way in hell he's gonna allow it. He's gonna get a Chimera and he's gonna babysit his guardsmen and squad and just, oh, there's an obnoxious cloud, I'm just gonna jump in, no problem. And the autocannon is doing so much damage on the Blood Crusher. That's one volley, second volley coming out now. And we have the sniper buff as well. And he's doing a triple repair on the Chimera, I think, but it's taking way too much damage.
Yeah.
But still, dealing a lot of damage. Manticore out. Gonna need to see that barrage coming out soon. There we go. We'll see how that one lands.
It just it basically is just a nice little defensive barrage there to go ahead and keep the Chaos Space Marines and Plague Marines from moving in there and doing anything rash. Now this is a little too much in the Blood Crusher. He's trying to go ahead and get this Manticore. Problem is the autocannon's going to set up and finish this thing off.
Yeah, he's going to get a volley off. And he again lost way too many models and a Blood Crusher in order to just kill one Chimera. It didn't pay off in the long run again. He's just losing because he's just killing guardsmen. Guardsmen are not super efficient to kill. In killing those vehicles, he's just replacing that lost Chimera. Even though I think it was like level 3 or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, it probably was leveled pretty decently. And also, it did take away the opportunity that Nem had to maybe go ahead and get some Overns at that point. So you see, he's got the power, and if you add that requisition back in, he would be able to get Overns maybe about now to start training them. And meanwhile, we've got a creeping barrage on the left side that is going to be the death of this Havoc squad. That Chaos, the Khorne Havoc, I mean. It didn't actually kill it itself, but it basically brought it to like 6 health or something. And the guardsmen, the plasma guardsmen, were just like, haha.
Yeah. Also, if you notice in the middle, the double Chaos Space Marines with the Mark of Siege went up against double guardsmen and the Lord General and got beaten down brutally, just because the guardsmen are allowed level 3, every one of them.
Not to mention plasma
gun guardsmen. It's just so powerful, and it's just furthermore, just try to say Mark of Siege is so not worth it in order to deal with guardsmen blobs, because you're just doing attrition. You're not going in for the kill. You're not pushing him necessarily back. You're just killing like insignificant amounts of guardsmen that will just inevitably be replaced. Because with the Khorne Chaos Space Marines, you can actually push him back and just he can't kill you as well because you're faster and you can actually deal with the Chimera from their plasma guns, or whatever they're called.
I like how we have the Lord General here popping the incoming ability from his flak jacket there as he's going ahead and capturing the point to allow him to basically go ahead and capture that. Now here we have a little bit better of an Obnoxious Cloudcast here, and this may actually finish off that squad. Yes, it does. And that is where Obnoxious Cloud is just so brutal against infantry, but you can catch them away from the Chimera, which particularly on this map, you know, you do have to do as the Imperial Guard player. You do have to move out a bit. And we saw the second he did that was the second he basically just died.
But yeah, triple cap for Nemok now, and Edtjuh is so low on requisition. He has to reinforce so many units all the time. It's looking so bad, and not more. That Chaos Space Marine squad might actually go down here.
And this Sergeant, by the way, on the heavy weapons team is proving its weight in gold. Actually causes the death of an entire Heretic squad, and it's able to stand up to this Blastmaster Noise Marine. Actually, we see that Edtjuh, well, he conceded and then he GG'd in the post-game screen, so was not a rage quit, by the way, guys.
Yep.
But anyway, you know, I mean, basically, I don't think Edtjuh, for whatever reason, realized that the Sergeant means you can't be knocked back, and we saw the Blastmaster try to knock it back, and the Heretics actually plopped a full barrage on it, and the Heretics, because they overextended with the barrage, and there was no knockback, the rest of the burst finish, and then they just died, and then the Blastmasters now are in a really bad position, and so Edtjuh went ahead and GG'd out. It's a really good game from Nemok. Do you have anything else to say about that?
No, I don't think so. Well played on them's part, definitely.
What would you say from the Chaos point of view, that, you know, if you expected this kind of a build, what would you say that, how would you go about dealing with, I guess I want to say, in terms of force composition and your early game and such?
Well, I wouldn't. There's multiple ways of actually dealing with it. You can go for a double Heretics and just one Chaos Space Marine squad and a Havoc, or you can just go Chaos Space Marine and double Havocs, because the double Havoc will later on transition very well into double Corns in the tier 2. Or yeah, you can get, or just keep one suppression for inevitable maybe Ogryns that might pop up. But regardless, I really don't like Market Siege against IG anymore, because necessarily this, you know, with the Mark of Khorne Chaos Space Marines, nothing the IG has can compete against that. Sure, Catachans are super powerful in melee, blah 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 blah, and Ogryns are whatever, but necessarily the Khorne Chaos Space Marines do really well against Ogryns, and for their cost efficiency per reinforcement model is far more beneficial for the Chaos than it is for, per se, the IG.
Oh, definitely.
And there's a lot of ways around that, and I love Mark of Khorne against IG. I love Mark of Khorne in general. They're really powerful Havocs, that is. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Mark of Khorne Havocs. Because they rip apart the Guardsmen, and they rip apart Sentinels. They do a lot of damage against pretty much everything, and they also allow you to do some really effective gen bashing if you seize the moment. But rare occasions, though.
So what was your stance on the Blood Crusher that Edtjuh got out?
Well, it could have been useful if he didn't decide to maybe, you know, suicide it into the base just to kill the Chimera. It seemed really desperate, and he forgot about the autocannon, and that inevitably got himself killed. He probably could have just used the line of sight a lot more and just try to force, because he could have parked it outside that garrison outside of Nemok's base.
The corner,
Exactly, and that would make Nemok's life a really difficult. Well, make it really difficult for Nemok to actually deal with it, because the autocannon range wouldn't be far beneficial, and the plasma guns won't do a whole lot except for some soft counter damage and all that kinds of jiffy. Because the only response he had against a Blood Crusher or a vehicle at all was the autocannon, nothing else.
Yeah, or unless he got incredibly lucky with the Mana Core.
Yeah, and also because also to point out, I mentioned this a lot of times. He took way too many model losses for being for playing Chaos. if you would per se, if I am to make a comparison, playing Space Marines, you could probably take a few losses and just scruff it out and don't really bother. You can't do that as Chaos. You have to be careful, like really, really careful. And I'm not saying that from a biased point of view. That's just the sort of way it is. I'm making this comparison also if you're an APO, sort of ish, because that's usually what people are, unless you're Tech Marine or whatever. It's just. Yeah, yeah. It's just the model losses for Chaos. It's really people saying, "Well, heretics are so cheap to reinforce," and blah 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 blah. No, they're
16 Rec is not cheap.
Yeah, well, some people. I'm just saying some people.
Yeah, I know.
Not saying everyone. Yeah, but yeah, too many model losses. Should have played more safe and turtle down a bit more. Even though he did that a lot. Just do it more.
Alrighty, so I think we probably only have time for one more, so probably executive decision time to go with the Farseer one with Lindonin as opposed to the Tech Marine one, just because Farseer is Lindonin's main, and I feel like he gave the best game in the finals as Farseer.
Is it a final game?
Yeah. It's, Lindo 1 is the replay name.
Oh, hold on. The Lindo 3 or Lindo 1?
Lindo 1.
Oh. I had that game open. Silly me.
But anyway, yeah, so I was hoping, I was wondering if we could maybe be able to get through to his Tech Marine play as well, but you know, time-wise, not quite going to be able to get up to it. So again, executive decision time. I'm going to go with the Farseer one because he played pretty well in this, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly how he played his Farseer differently than Edtjuh's. And I'm paused at 5, by the way.
Yep.
Alrighty, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so Nem is up in top here, and Lindonin down in the bottom as Farseer. We see Lindonin actually going a little bit different here from Edtjuh, so this is already going to be kind of nice. You see that he's getting a second Guardian squad out instead of a Banshee squad immediately. And we're going to see basically the same build from Nem, okay?
Yeah, I like that. I prefer the Guardians, and like I mentioned in the first game, the Banshees seems to be a bit more of a liability than to be of any use against an IG matchup.
I have heard a lot of Elder players say they can be very useful in Tier 2, but they are just about worthless in Tier 1.
Yeah, you want to have a good early game, obviously, so it's really a risky investment in that sense.
Yeah, I know that, for example, Jameis McGamus, one of our Eldar strategy specialists, is really working on a guide for Spider Exarch versus Imperial Guard. And he's been changing the guide around a lot as he, like, kind of the metagame evolves almost right in front of his eyes. But, you know, he had been going back and forth on Banshee's position in the match. When to get them, if to get them, blah, 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 for quite a while. So I don't know where he is on that right now. But I know it's definitely a big thing for Eldar players where they do seem to want to use Banshees because they do seem to get a big benefit out of them in Tier 2. Like we did see that the Banshees were really nice and disruptive, particularly against the Ogrins for Edtjuh, but at the same time they bled so much.
Yeah. Farseer pushed back by the Sentinel Guardsmen, but you know, the Farseer managed to kill one model of the Guardsmen, so hooray!
By the way, we do have, I'm not sure if this is a little bit of a difference in Nem's build here or what, but actually his main power node, or main power has a node on it already. And he's just getting his second Sentinel out now, so he basically got a node before he got a second Sentinel, which I find a little interesting, which means to me that he's concentrating a little more on power this game. And I'm not sure if that's because he either refined something from last game and felt like he didn't need the second Sentinel as soon as he got it out last game, or he didn't need something maybe like Sergeants as early, or this may have something to do with not seeing any Banshees. I'm not really sure on that front. Or it may have just been an accidental mistake where, you know, he would usually go ahead and do that because he'd be getting catechins or something, and it was kind of reflexive.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say on that end. And again, doing the same thing he did in last game. Micro that Sentinel back and get that other Sentinel to soak a bit of the damage and get that damaged Sentinel repaired.
Yeah, and he's making a really strong push on Lindonin and Generators here. Misclick or something on that Sentinel for that stomp there. Not sure what that was all about. There wasn't any lag in this game, I can vouch for that. So
he probably just expected the Farseer to go into the thick of things, and he probably could afford that stomp, just because the counterattack is taking a bit too long to get back.
Yeah, and meanwhile, by the way, we see one Shuriken here, and then we're seeing a Ranger also coming out. So we're seeing a very different force composition from Lindonin as far as how to combat this force here from Nemoke. So again, it's going to be really nice to see from the Eldar point of view exactly what you're able to do here with a different look, basically.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, we have the
defensive turret here. We haven't really seen Nemoke do too much of this in the games today. We saw yesterday he went ahead and plopped down a lot of offensive turrets, actually, power generators and such. But here we go, we have a defensive turret here. I'm not sure, again, if this is another evolution of the build on this map, where he figured out, after the last game against Edtjuh, that he really did a good job and needed to hold this side as best he could, and maybe hold it with a few less forces, and so go ahead and use his multi-laser on that.
And also we're seeing the differences in play styles here. Lindonin going for the battle equipments in the early game and getting those energy shields up. Considering that Nemoke only has ranged armies, so that makes the energy shields really worthwhile, and it's just gonna bunker down the Shuriken and enforce the Sentinels to actually, if they want to take down the energy shields, they have to move up. And he's gonna win in a pure ranged firefight, Lindonin, that is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really like Lindonin's playstyle here as far as these Guardian Shields go. But then again, this turret is just the perfect, like, it's not a direct counter turret or anything, but it's just the perfect response, because the same way now that Nem is going to have a tough time pushing up against Lindonin, Lindonin is going to have a tough time pushing up against Nem. So it basically, he may be able to, if he can get in here and decapture this, or that is, if Lindonin can get in there and decapture that victory point, he can go ahead and make it neutral, but getting this decapture off with this multi-laser turret there is going to be very brutal. And of course you have the range firepower of the Guardsman and the Sentinel, you know, all just barely outside the range here of this Shuriken. Well, not the Shuriken, but... So he's going to use his gate here. Really good usage of gates, Lindonin in the whole tournament. And he's going to use this to kind of hide from the multi-laser turret while capping.
Only momentarily though, since it wears off.
Kind of interesting actually is that the way this multi-laser turret seems to be positioned, it wasn't, oh, they were actually hidden behind the victory point. Interesting.
And here we show the Rangers' real strength against the Sentinels. Oh, almost gets that Sentinel, but wasn't enough. Shuriken might be able to finish it off, though.
Oh,
no,
the
it
Shuriken
actually
goes down, but the Ranger finishes the Sentinel off. But I don't like that trade at all for Lindonin, and particularly because Nemoke is already tier 2, and his Chimera is already a quarter of the way out.
Yeah, he doesn't need the Sentinels. I mean, there are no Banshees, and the Guardians are firing from afar, and the Sentinels are more of a liability in a ranged firefight, unless they get the missile launchers. And sure, they're good in the early game, of course, to put up the pressure and just keep a good, solid defensive line. So I'm not gonna say the Sentinels are completely useless. It's just that he doesn't need them anymore.
Yeah, so he definitely doesn't need them as much as Lindonin needed that Shuriken.
Yeah, exactly.
Signal received.
And but I definitely think that the stealth grenade, and he uses the the kinetic shot there, but only really gets a couple models out of it. It was a nice try though.
Yeah. So creds for that. Wraith Guards coming out. You don't see them a whole lot often these days. I'm not sure why.
You see them a lot against IG, I think, but I don't know, maybe it's just the matches I've been watching.
Yeah, well, it's just a person. I don't see them very often. It's just
okay.
I use them myself though when I'm LR, when I'm going up against IG, because it makes sense.
Yeah.
I like them against IG, and it will be fun to see how the Farseer is actually going to synergize with them. I'd love to see some guide and with the Wraithguard, obviously, for the firing power. But he has to make sure not to lose the Farseer here when it's playing so aggressive with her. And he is taking a bit of damage at the his own generator farm, but nothing out of the ordinary.
His Rangers kind of pop out at the exact wrong time here. They go and they snipe one guardsman model, which is just instantly reinforced. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if NemOK has that on Overwatch or not, just because of how quickly that reinforcement model came up.
Yeah, probably.
I don't recommend using Overwatch, but
yeah. Whoa, Wraithguards are so fun to watch against IG. Oh, they just tear stuff apart. Guardians on the left-hand side might go down to the Lord General. No, they look to be actually making out of there alive.
Yeah, he did lose that Farseer though, and I'm honestly not sure why. There was really no reason for that to happen. Meanwhile, we see Guardsmen in melee here using the Chimeras reinforced to just go ahead and stay effectively at melee with his Wraithguard. And basically their biggest asset here in melee, they're still horrible in melee, but they're good enough to just prevent the Wraithguard from firing, which is all that really matters. And now the Rangers in big trouble from a creeping barrage, and we know what NemOK's creeping barrages mean.
Ooh, squad wipe.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Warp Spider out though to compensate. But no. I thought NemOK had triple guardsmen. I'm stupid. Never mind.
Nah, that's right. Now he had the 2 sentinels. He did lose his second sentinel.
Yeah. To the Wraithguard, yeah. I spotted that. But yeah, he lost the Farseer. Like I was afraid that was gonna happen. He actually needs that Farseer.
This is a little unfortunate here, by the way, with the Warp Spiders. I don't think it's gonna affect them too much, but that leader finished upgrading about, right after the infiltration was activated. And like, as an orc player, I know this pain all the time with commandos. It's really annoying and frustrating to go ahead and have commandos be infiltrating and everything else and doing their job, and then you're upgrading the leader for some reason or another, and it's like, oh, by the way, you're not the leader's not infiltrated, so he's gonna die within 2 seconds.
And again, the autocannon is up. Guardsmen are really low on health.
Trapped there by their own friends.
Aww. But oh well. Guardsmen are always replaceable. Or for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna. He may actually. We'll see. I mean, replacing guardsmen that totally die is pretty brutal because you do lose the leveling too.
Yeah, losing leveled guardsmen really sucks because it takes a while to get them level up. Or well, it depends. But we have one guardsman squad now upgrading with the plasma gun. I like that. I always like guardsmen with plasma guns. Funny though is how NemOK has never gotten flamers on its guardsmen. He's always gone for plasmas, and that really depends a lot on the. That's what differentiates him, or whatever the word is, from other IG players. Because some go for flamers in the early game, but he's like, no, screw that. I'm gonna go plasma and totally dominate the mid game.
Yeah, no, I like the idea. I like the concept of not going flamers as well, because the other thing is he's got this Lord General. He does like using that sniper rifle. Going flamers really decreases his range, just kind of period, and doesn't really let him have that range advantage the way he would like to. And even kind of the whole game, it's sort of a tactical space marines. Flamers are nice, but at the same, even against like orcs, it's like flamers are nice against orcs, but at the same time, maybe not the greatest thing in the world if you can just go ahead and kite pretty nicely.
No, autocannon might go down from the altar call-in,
and it just barely gets in the Chimera.
Oh, that was so close, so close, so close.
And just again, great micro here by NemOK. Well, great composure, I should say, to leave the autocannon. Like, a lot of players would just, the second that happened, click the retreat button and just all of a sudden go, oh no, retreat immediately. I mean, see, NemOK doesn't do that. Instead, he just calmly orders it into the Chimera, and ultimately that saves the squad. Creeping Barrage here on the Warp Spiders buys some time, and You know, again, this isn't one of the more effective ones to actually kill anything, but it buys some time for the Lord General and the Ogrins to come over now and support this point and keep it under Nemokei's control. Nemokei's victory point control here this whole game has been just absolutely insane. And I guess that is one thing that can be said for Edtjuh. You know, Edtjuh's build orders and stuff that he leveraged in this matchup, or you know, similar matchup, of course. You know, we have Farseer Gates, the Farseer versus the Warlock, but either way, you know, his kind of stronger tier 1 as opposed to tier 1.5 allowed him to get a lot more map control earlier, which we're not seeing from Lindonin here.
And grenade.
Oh, the execute, stopping them from walking into the retreat grenade.
Again, very nice micro on Nemok's side, avoiding that grenade spike. Also, really in a bad spot here. Chimera might be able to take on the pursuit on that. Also, can finish it off, but it doesn't look like it. So he's just gonna kill those guardians instead. He's gonna lose the multi-laser, but oh well.
And that
GG.
is game indeed there, yeah. I like that. Actually, the grenade missing too, by the way, was actually the thing that kind of got Lindonin stuck with these guardians, if you look at it, because he all of a sudden, by missing that grenade, he only had one grenade left, and that wasn't enough to take out the multi-laser turret. And so he had a kind of an issue then with, if he wanted to retreat the guardians, he was going to have to go through the multi-laser turret on retreat and take some more losses. And then also he wasn't going to deal with the multi-laser turret because then it was just going to be repaired. So he's trying to stay here and shoot it down, but the problem with staying there and shooting it now is that's incredibly inefficient. But especially when now you have an autocannon, a guardsman, and a chimera setting up because the autarch's been forced off. So we see that put Lindonin in just a terrible position. It was a big overpush, not unlike the overpush that was Farseer there. But it was, I don't know if it may have been something he needed to try, or maybe not quite so much. Honestly, with the Wraith Guard out, he probably didn't need to do it.
Yeah, I just think, to be honest, the Farseer, where was she? He could have used some spotters for the Wraith Guard, use guide on the Wraith Guard, and just peel off the multi-lasers.
She was just dead, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And just never resurrected. I mean, he was bleeding so much throughout the game. Again, just like Nemokei, just winning the attritional war and never letting that up, just like never ever. And but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this Farseer loss, I don't know why it happened. I mean, obviously, he just kind of lost track of it in the midst of everything else. But it just seems so weird because there was really nothing out there at the time that was going to, you know, it's like the Lord General and an autocannon team, and you think about either of those two is something that a Farseer should be able to deal with pretty effectively, and should be able to retreat from alright, but nonetheless.
Yeah. Stuff like that happen. You make mistakes, but this time it really came biting in the ass and probably lost him the game.
So meanwhile, it's about 6:50 right now, so we got about 10 minutes left. So anyone watching, if you guys have any questions in the chat, feel free to plop them up there, and we'll have a little QA session, I guess, because didn't quite get to Lindonin's tech brain play, but you know, we saw no Aves before, and I think we saw a lot of the refinements of the build kind of filter into some of the play champion play. We didn't see Ogrins, and that was probably the only difference. But otherwise, you know, you can certainly see, I think by this point, I think you guys get the gist of what Nemokei is doing, both against Eldar and against the Chaos and Space Marine armies. So. But anyway, so yeah, Lindonin's Tech Marine attempt was alright, but I mean, Nemokei was just dominating that whole game, so. But anyway, if there aren't any questions, then we can always end a little early, unless, Caeltos, do you have anything you want to bring up or talk about, or do you have a soapbox you want to stand on?
No. No, I don't think I have anything to further include. At least not on top of my head.
Anything, I mean, it can be not related to Nemokei at all if you want.
Well, all I can say is I'm looking forward to the next patch, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the next patch.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I know a lot of Space Marine players like the 450 rec tax, I think something needs to happen about that just for 2v2 and 3v3 right now. Because I think what Relic did in this patch with the tax is that I think they kind of narrowed down some of what they need to do as far as, I think they kind of hit something on the head with the tax, because the Tyranid versus Space Marine matchup hasn't been the same. It hasn't been the cakewalk for Tyranids that it was previously. And even Space Marine versus Eldar and stuff, like all the problem matchups for Space Marines have kind of changed for the better there. But at the same time, some other matchups, of course, have gone a little more in Space Marine favor than they were before. But the big issue has been, of course, 2v2, 3v3. I don't think the 450 requisition was the right way to deal with that for all game modes. But if they can find another solution that doesn't impact those other game modes as much, I'm not sure what that is, but if they can look along those lines, maybe. And Narik, yeah, sure, feel free.
Yeah, for the 450 attacks and the whole Space Marine changes in the early game, I think we had a lot of discussions in houses between the top tier players and what we wanted to change with Space Marines, because we pretty much all acknowledged, or well, a lot of us acknowledged that Space Marine early game is pretty much trash unless you're playing APO and you have a really good solid play. But what happened now is the fact that the Space Marines are so much more forgiving to play, and taking requisition losses, or I mean model losses, is so much more insignificant from 83 to 75. It might not sound like a lot, but it's really makes a whole lot of a difference. If you have like two squads, means you have 100 requisition over, along with the sniper changes that reduce the cost of -60, is so high. And you can't say, well, people wanted a reduction on the tacticals because Chaos got that in also because they wanted the same treatment. But the problem is that Chaos got an increase in their heretics, and the requisition increase as well. So it was a win and lose situation, and heretics were obviously a bit too strong in that sense that they were so cheap and efficient. But the problem is that it more relies on the Chaos Space Marine play, and I could dwell on forever, but that's the short end of the story. Yeah, people would. Yeah.
So I was just gonna say, unfortunately, I don't know how you would come up with a compromise between like tax and something else as far as dealing with like costs in that front, because unfortunately it's like you're not going to make assault Space Marines any more expensive than they already are, because they're hugely expensive to begin with, and at the same time scouts already cost a ton to reinforce, for given how quickly they are. It's not the hardest thing in the world to keep them alive at points, but on the other hand, they're in any kind of direct combat, they do drop models, so to raise their price or anything else is very, very tough to justify. And I just kind of look at it and I'm like, well, there's no reason to raise the Devastator price or anything either. I almost kind of feel like they may need to look at, if they want to keep the 450 tax, that they may need to look at something like Eternal War. But the problem with that I have with that is it hasn't been entirely successful with Chaos Space Marines in terms of like, I mean, how many Chaos players actually get Eternal War in Tier 1 right now?
It always depends on that matter. But if we are, go.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to follow up really quickly. But, because I had a second thought. I'm thinking, well, they don't get Eternal War, but then again, though, it's kind of like their own issue if they don't get Eternal War. It would still allow that kind of nice little effectiveness nerf slightly, and then they could, bring it up through something like that. And then, it either does what it's supposed to do, or it just isn't used, but then tax aren't as much of an issue as they would be otherwise. So, but the issue though isn't so much the tax; it's just that Space Marines can now tech a little faster.
Yeah, but it's evolved. It's just because they're cheap, it means you can get the generaries earlier and all that kinds of crap. Yeah. And what we did in the in-house discussions is that we acknowledged what was the problem, and that was probably the scouts that were way too useless, because they do like no damage and they have no battlefield presence at all. they're just running around capping stuff. So what we did is actually sit down and say, no, tacticals should not be changed. Mostly that's what we said, but we don't represent everyone. It's just our opinion on the matter.
So
and
you
what
feel like Scout should be strengthened?
Yes, by the fact that default scouts, I think what we came to consensus was the fact that if we change scouts, it won't affect chaos. Space Marines in Civ 2 and Civ 3 because there's a lot more focus fire going on. So scout changes aren't as much of a big difference per se if you would change tacticals, because tacticals in Civ 2 and Civ 3 are already really powerful because they can soak damage and all that kinds of crap. And if we change scout, they can actually promote more scout builds into 2 and 3, which is very rare, unless you go for snipers. But you know, snipers are fine as they are. We just wanted to change the default scouts so they were more used in the more big fights and skirmishes. And there was a lot of brainstorming going around. We said, how about merging the shotguns and the stealth? How about doing a lot of other stuff? We actually had a petition going on for Relic. I'm not sure if that was actually sent out or anything. But regardless, the change to the tacticals just made 2v2 and 3v3 almost unbearable. I personally cannot stand 2v2 and 3v3 anymore because it's just too tough to deal with. Because if you see an apothecary and whatever the miscellaneous 2v2 Space Marine commander is, you're in for a world of hurt. Because they can fast tech, they can completely destroy you in the early game. And the late game, we don't even want to go there.
I've been getting my Land Raiders out, like, even though there was a Land Raider cost nerf, I've been getting my Land Raiders out, like, more often and, like, way faster than just ever before. It's been insane. But, yeah, I do kind of like, I don't know, exactly what you would look into as far as a scout buff, but, I don't know. I mean, you could certainly look at buffing their damage a bit, because they're really good at kiting. And, if they were just a little bit better at that. I mean, certainly from an orc perspective, I can tell you that, and even a versus orc perspective, that you don't need shotguns to go ahead and deal with a lot of orc units. But of course, you can't really stand up in any kind of ranged fight, so it might help them on that front to get a little bit better bolters. But I think one of the things a lot of people have talked about is maybe working on their infiltration and making that a little more accessible, as opposed to right now that's a huge expense, particularly like sniper rifle and that. I don't quite know, because again, it comes down to like the sergeant being. There's got to be some kind of cost thing there to make them a little more viable to get kind of fully upped in tier 1 maybe. But
yeah, and also to dwell on that specific with the sniper change, but that was actually done before the patch, I think, with the fact that they went from, what was it, 60 requisition down to 35.
Yeah, it's
like
actually it was the same patch. Yeah, I really like that change actually. I thought that was I thought that worked well, was necessary, and has been a good change overall so far.
Well, I have mixed feelings just because the fact that, if it went snipers, I think the cost reduction was fine and everything, but on top of that, they were cheaper also to reinforce. Just made that, like, well-kited scouts were hard to deal with, and just to add some extra cheese on top of it, you could have an apothecary, and you were like, I'm so close to making a big difference in the economy, and then he just pops a heal on the scouts, and you're like, crap. And now it's the same thing, but it's just like, okay, I can almost do 35 and 6 instead of 60 and 6. It's like a big difference on top of the cheaper tacticals and cheaper tactical reinforcements.
I think the issue there comes again back to the cheaper tax. If you fix that, I think the sniper changes is kind of nice, because it lets them use the snipers against nids, and they're still not, the snipers themselves are still, I find, not effective enough against something like orcs, because they give up the ability to go shotguns on the scouts that they get snipers on. So being able to keep, it's not like, for example, Eldar, where you can go like 1 Guardian, 1 Banshee, and then like 2x Rangers or Shuri Rangers, stuff like that. I feel like you give up a little bit more opportunity cost with your scouts when you do that, to kind of keep the same sort of compositions in play. But anyway, we do have a question here from Narik, and it's been a little bit for him getting to it. So he asks that he's struggling to keep map control of Space Marine versus Imperial Guard, Eldar, aka units, or races with a lot of units spread out, especially as the late game comes. So should he get more scouts or blob up and take on, go on the offensive?
It's, in my opinion, vague. It's a bit vague, but sure, he can spread out and do a lot of map control. The opponent might do a lot of map control kind of crap, but if that's the case, you have to make him adapt to your playstyle, and that means go on the offensive. Just park your units outside its generators, and you're gonna be like, if you're not going to defend your generator and you're giving up for some map control, so be it. I'm just gonna kill your generators, and then decap it, and then work my way with a blob sort of to stop you. Because if it's an Eldar, if he doesn't use the Banshees in order to defend the generators, it shouldn't be much of an issue. And if it's the Shuriken sitting at the generator, you should have an assault squad coming out pretty shortly to help on that matter. It also depends a bit on the maps. Per se, on a civil, you can do the assistance a lot earlier, and you be the aggressive a lot easier, and maintain the map control, because on the southern side you can have the double requisition VP and a power node, compared to, say, if he was going to use the top side, which is 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, no, I can't, 3 requisition points and 1 power and 2 VPs, you would still have the advantage by destroying the power generator outside his base. I can dwell on more onto that, but yeah, go on the offensive if map control kinds of builds are being a nuisance.
Yeah, I think also, I don't know quite what his starting build order here is either, but if you're having issues with that and your order is something like 1-1-1 or Scout, TAC, ASM, starting Scout, by the way, then getting that second Scout in there before the ASM can also help out a lot, because it just is kind of one of those units that will be, you know, you can still have the support Scout for shotgun or sniper or whatever else once you get your ASM out, but then you can also have that second Scout really providing you with map control while you go on the offensive, which is really key in Dawn of War 2. When you go on the offensive, you either need to make sure that you hit generators hard, or that you push your opponent back and you force them to defend, but when you force them to defend, you force them to commit more forces than you're forced to commit, and then you're able to go ahead and capture the map while you do that, so that you can go ahead and take the economic lead.
Yep, I agree with the double Scout after that tactical per se thing.
And then
some people.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Oh, okay, sorry. And then he also just had a little question about the cheaper tax, meaning if the Space Marine attack blob, Space Marines will attack blob again. I'll just answer that really quick. The issue with cheaper tax actually really has nothing to do with tack blobbing. It's honestly still as easy to counter. As easy to counter as it's always been. You know, sure, there's less attritional loss and whatnot. The thing is that 2x tax is a little more viable, and basically anything with any build with a tactical Space Marine in it, which I think are basically all Space Marine builds now. I don't think there's any more 3x Scouts really being used competitively, except maybe as some kind of cheese for double ASM or something. But you know, on the whole, usually not going to see 3x Scouts anymore, and so you'll see attack just about every game, and it really just accelerates the rate at which Space Marines get their generators up. I know, like, for example, I played a lot of Apothecary leading up to 3.14. When I heard about it and when I saw the changes were going to be in it, I really was like, okay, I want to play the Apothecary a lot more than I usually do, and get a really good feel for how he is right now, and then how he is after the patch. And the biggest things that I noticed were that basically if I was going a starting Scout, TAC, and then Assault Space Marine build, that my Assault Space Marines were hitting just a little bit earlier, but that my economy was much better because I was getting my generators up much faster after that, and I was getting my Mastercrafted Bolter way earlier, and again in a much better economic position throughout. So basically everything just flowed way too well, and I was able to make much better timing pushes against my opponents, but they were really devastating. I was able to hold those tier 2 because I just was not taking any losses whatsoever. You know, having Mastercrafted Bolter earlier means that all of a sudden my Apothecary can stand back from the fight earlier and not have to engage directly, and that's possibly its own issue. I think if the attack cost stays the same, Mastercrafted Bolter needs a power cost increase by at least 5 power. And you know, I still feel like full auto needs to do less damage, and it does. I know they nerfed that again this patch, but it still does not make sense to me why it does as much as it does. I don't have an issue actually with the chain knockback it does. I don't have an issue with, most of the war gear, honestly. Even I don't have most of an issue with it in Tier 1. I just have an issue with it comes a little too early now because of the tack change. And I have an issue with that, Full Auto, again, still just does a little too much damage because it kind of, negates the primary way to get away from it, which is retreating. I've killed so many things retreating from it just with the damage per second because it's so high. But yeah, so that really isn't the big danger you have as far as the cheaper attacks. It's because artillery will still devastate them just as badly as it always has.
And so will suppression teams.
Yeah. Well, Storm Shield and stuff are still pretty good, but that is, I mean, I guess the issue with Storm Shield then is it comes back to artillery. So you get the suppression out, and then Storm Shield comes out, and it's like, oh, we got Storm Shield, but we got to really block pretty tight, guys. And then comes in the artillery from the stick bombers and everything, and at least they did make stick bombers a little easier to use. But so, but no, yeah. So again, the issues in 2v2 and 3v3 are just mostly the teching speed that is allowed now. So I think, again, unless you have anything else to say on the matter, or anyone has any more questions, we can go ahead and wrap this up.
No, I think I'm fine. Autocannons rule. That's about it.
Yeah, I do like seeing I like seeing those a lot more now. I mean, as primarily an orc player, I feel a little left out, but
yeah.
As a general community member who can play any race, honestly, it doesn't bother me too much. So, because I'm like, oh, I guess if I really want the autocannon, I just go and play some Imperial Guard, or I play some Chaos, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is nice to see more of those, and they don't seem to be like overbuffed too badly either.
Yeah, they're pretty fine. I mean, you're giving up the suppression for the extra damage and everything.
Yeah, which is always, pretty big difference. So, anyway,
yeah.
thank you, Caeltos, for hopping on today for Lockgar. I'm not really sure what happened, but no doubt this is probably like asked the day of sort of thing. So, big thanks for being here and helping me out.
No problem, anytime, man.
Oh, definitely. I'll always love to have you on.
That's nice to hear. I'm flattered.
Should be. I honestly can't think of a reason why we wouldn't want to have one of the best Dawn of War 2 players on, like, constantly. But how's your PC doing, by the way?
It's kick-ass, man. I'm running an Ultra, and I got like the max FPS and everything. No problem. And it doesn't sound like a freaking aeroplane.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, and you caught that little expletive there just in time. It just got to the U. You didn't actually get any harsh sounds in there at the end there. I'm just saying that for the broadcast and everything. There was no expletive there. It was just this FU word. There is no, it's like, I mean, it's what people just do, But, anyway, so that's good, yeah, because unfortunately you weren't able to participate in the GameReplays Open Season tournament this weekend because of computer issues, so...
Yeah, it sucked. Funny thing is how well I actually performed when I actually got the PC, because I had some practice games when I got back against Aki.
Can I ask how those went?
5-0 to me. Nice. And he played Apo, man. I was really proud of those games. Played really well.
Yeah, I was surprised I don't know. I mean, I keep expecting big things from Aki, but I don't know. We'll see. He did big things in the open, the tournament A. You figure the worst time for him to do big things, right? Because it's before all the Space Marine buffs. And you figure tournament B and tournament C have both been during the Space Marine buffs. And I figure, okay, tournament B he lost to Caeltos, right? So like he agreed to play Caeltos in the round of 128, and it just kind of was unfortunate that he got knocked out. He lost to Caeltos then, but then. This tournament, no such excuses really. He did get obviously a lot further than round 128 this time, but I was kind of expecting to see like him pretty high up there. And,
who did he play last time? Was it Caeltos? No.
No, I don't think he played Caeltos this time. I'd have to look it up who he lost to. But he definitely, I don't think he even got points this time. So I think he was still round of 32 or below. I was kind of surprised. Yeah, I think he actually again had to fall back on. I think, as I recall, I was looking at who he lost to, and it was I think he lost to Lindonin. But I think I was. Oh. Yeah, I think I was looking at it, and it was. So yeah, I mean, again, losing 2 with the runner-up is kind of one of those things. Like, well, I guess what are you gonna do? Because it means you certainly could have been like position number 3 or 4 or something like that, you know, in reality. But unfortunately, because of where you were in the brackets, but it still means you weren't top 2, which is kind of where I expected he might be. But
I just realized that's why you made a post on the GameReplays about LR economy being broken.
Yeah.
I just remember.
Yeah, there are also Vindicare X's post about Falcon Shields. Did not just come out of left field. Because Lindonin went past. Yeah, Lindonin managed to get by Vindicare X. Vindicare X's issue, though, is he loves Bloodletters of Death and just kind of all sorts of melee AV in terms of the Blood Crusher and stuff, but you know, the Falcon, he did have a Zeech Havoc for a bit there, but by the time he had the Zeech Havoc out, as I recall, it was like he was dealing with an Avatar and a Falcon, a shielded Falcon, and it was like, you know, the Falcon probably could have been dealt with a little earlier on in the game, and it was kind of ignored for a bit, so I don't know. But I wonder how an autocannon would do against the Falcon, by the way. It's just kind of one of those things just popped in my mind that I don't know how a Corn Havoc would have performed against it compared to the Zeech Havoc.
Seems never worth it anymore, in my opinion. Crap. Sorry. Oops, that's me being sweet. No, but to be back on track on the topic, it's Siege is just so pointless nowadays. It's just like, yeah, one trick pony. So what? Once he's done his job, kill a truck or whatever, it's not worth investing in a Siege to get the job done. You might as well just go for a corner havoc, double volleys, and the warp is gone. About 2.5 volleys from on a Falcon, and it's gone as well. And at the same time, you can deal with Guardians and all that kinds of sort of stuff. That means you're more of a generalist than a specialist. Because usually, back before this patch, it was all about specialist chaos type of play, really. That's what they're known for, a bit more specialists.
Yeah. But Corn Havoc seems to have changed that a bit. There's actually also another topic in the forums about setup AV and the Zeech Havoc being somewhat unimpressive in that category, so I don't know if we'll see maybe something come of that, particularly with Corn. Like, it's interesting because you look at it, the Imperial Guard's last cannon is like a really good setup AV squad, so it competes really well with the autocannon on that front. But then apparently the Zeech Havoc is like one of the worst of the setup AVs, like even compared to the Beamy Luda. Well, Beamy Luda has its
Beamy
own...
Luda's good.
Yeah, I like it, and then, you know, it's kind of one of those things that's a love-hate relationship, because it's like, there are times when I would love a snare, and then there are times I don't know what I do without infiltration. But I can't decide which I really want, because it seems there are more times where I prefer a snare. But on occasion, like against Chimeras, I tend to prefer the infiltration, because they're not the fastest of vehicles, but they don't have a ton of health, so just popping out of nowhere and getting like 2-3 shots off on a Chimera is just huge. I know, like, against Pega, I got a lot of victories that way.
But yeah, in comparison to the last cannons from the IG and the Space Marines per se, is, from what I know, the IG has like way better last cannon because it fires more rapidly, I think.
Yeah, it's something like that, and also sets up a little better. But
yeah, and the health, and then it can also have a sergeant.
Yeah,
which makes a difference.
Well, the health, remember though, is it does take more damage from. I feel like the health isn't as big of a factor on that one, because like it takes more damage from bolters, and so you know, of course, you know, setup AV from, you know, your typical bolters, unlike suppression where it can deal with those effectively, like setup AV doesn't do anything to that. So
yeah, but also Space Marines has the Librarian with the Veil of Time.
Exactly.
Chaos certainly has the warships, but what the hell is a Nurgle warship going to benefit?
Well, yeah, exactly, and then, you know, even Khorne warship compared to Veil of Time is like, you know, it doesn't help setup time.
Yeah, exactly, and all that kind of stuff. It's just in terms of synergy with the rest of the army, it fades away. And yeah, that's kind of stuff, really.
Yeah. Alright, though, so we could probably waffle on about stuff for a while. But, you know, overall, you know, despite what we complain about this and that, the game's in a pretty nice state, so I think we can all agree, so... Just small things, always small things.
People are being way more nitpicky on the balance compared to before. That's for sure.
I mean, it's nowhere. Like Retribution has never had anything like the beginning of Chaos Rising. There's no upkeep Blood Crushers, dog. Best idea ever.
Terminators. Oh my god.
Oh, that too. Oh my god. I just about refused to play against Space Marines or against a Force Commander because Lightning Claws were so bad. As orcs, there was nothing you could do against them at that point in time. There was literally nothing.
Absolutely nothing. I know. Oh, good times. At least they fixed that pretty fast, though, until it became a very important issue to get done with, sort of.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's actually kind of becoming an issue again because of Space Marine tech speed, but we won't get back into that. But yeah. Anyways, again, thank you for hopping on and helping out, and definitely really look forward to seeing you in Tournament D. By the way.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to extend the offer now that no matter what happens in Tournament D, if you want to maybe hop on with Lockar and myself, and we'll go over some of your replays from that, and we'll let you kind of give everyone here your personal kind of take on what went down.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Should definitely be fun. Alright, awesome. So, remind me about that if I totally forget about it, but I don't think I will, but...
Yeah, vice versa.
But, alright, so to everyone else, thank you guys for tuning in. And just a quick reminder that sign-ups for Tournament D are going to open up tomorrow, so if you're interested in that, be sure to head on over to GameReplays.org/Dawn of War 2. We'll have, like, probably about 1,000 links to the sign-ups, so you'll be able to find them somewhere. Just, look around, you'll find a link to them in some way. And, yeah, I think, oh, that's right, the winner's interview with NemOK. So if you want to get maybe some more insight about what we just saw earlier today and what we saw yesterday in terms of NemOK's builds and what he did and everything else, if you want to get some more insight into NemOK, what he did this tournament and everything else, go ahead and check out the winner's interview, which is on GameReplays.org/Dawn of War 2 right now. And yeah, I believe Lockar will be back sometime this week, so if not, but well, anyway. Again, I want to give a big thank you to Caeltos for joining me today, and also want to just reiterate again for those watching this on YouTube that the show has moved over to, well, IC Cup TV on the whole has moved over to Justin.tv, and so you can go ahead and find the show now every day, well, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on www.justin.tv/ICCupTV2. And so we'll be there. We also, the VODs actually now upload instantly there as well. So if you guys don't want to wait around for those to be on YouTube or whatever, you can go ahead and just watch them on there as well. But we're also going to continue putting them up on the IC Cup TV YouTube channel, so don't worry about that. But anyway, thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow, same time. And this is 5-Star General signing off. And Caeltos signing off too.
And Caeltos signing off. Peace, hombres.